Hi there. I'm a lot better at singing in front of people than I am speaking, so you'll have to forgive me. Good evening, my name is Christy Collins, and I first want to thank all of you who are here tonight and willing to support such an important cause, and who want to assist women and children along with our community in taking a stand against domestic violence. I am here tonight speaking to you as a survivor of domestic violence because of the support I received from the community as well as the Cocoon Shelter. Tonight, I am honored to be able to stand here and tell you why you as supporters are so important to people like me and my 3 children, people who once were victims of domestic violence. I was married to my second husband for less than a year when his anger issues began. At first, it was a lot of yelling, and then he started coming home drunk and began to do things like wrestle me for my purse, call me all kinds of obscenities in front of my children, and threatened eventually physical violence. I had just started back to school, and as time spent with him became minimal, his anger increased. He monopolized our finances and would spend every penny we had so that I would have very little left to provide for my children. And it was also a way to prevent me from leaving. I soon found out about the Cocoon Shelter a short time after I got married and happened to pick up a card with their number on it. I hid it in my purse and kept it there because I knew that someday it would come in handy. Things began to get pretty bad, and I had to stay at my brother's house one night in Weston because my husband got drunk and threatened to come home and talk about what I had done wrong this time. I quickly packed an overnight bag for the kids and me to stay in Weston. It was a night of pure hell, as he constantly called me, called my brother, and called my family and harassed all of them. I felt embarrassed and guilty for putting my family in this situation and scared to death of what was going to happen next. We ended up calling the sheriff's department, and they did find him, but all they could do was take him home to sleep it off. That's when I called the shelter. They brought us to the unit, and I remember feeling a sense of relief and the feeling of being able to absolutely breathe again. I was actually able to sleep that night for the very first time all night. The next day, I remember talking to some of the staff, and they gave me some information about the cycle of domestic violence. You see, this was not my first experience with relationship abuse. I had been in the cycle for about 15 years, and I didn't understand why this kept happening to me. For the first time, I was beginning to understand, and deep down, I knew what I had to do. They gave me an information packet about what to do to prepare to leave the situation when I was ready to, and kept assuring me that the abuse was not my fault. They did not pressure me, but rather provided me with the support that I needed that I had not had before, and let me know there would always be support available at the shelter. We stayed there for about 2 weeks and then went back home. The next time he got drunk, about 3 months later, he tried to throw the kids and I out of the house in the middle of the night, in the dead of winter. I called the Bowling Green police, and they were there within about a minute. One officer got the kids and I into a bedroom, shut the door, and stayed with us while about 5 police officers wrestled him to the ground and took him out of the house. He was arrested for resisting arrest and was taken to jail for the weekend. I knew about the Cocoon Shelter as an option, but did not use it at this time. I did, however, proceed to get a restraining order, which he later convinced me to withdraw. He was, however, court-ordered to anger management classes, and that lasted for about 6 months, where he was released because of good behavior. You see, leaving wasn't easy, especially when my closest family member is 2 hours away, and he isolated me from all of my friends and the activities I enjoyed. The abuse made me feel as if I were going crazy and in a constant state of chaos. I was always responding to chaotic and dangerous situations, and I learned to survive instead of thrive. It robbed me of my freedom, and I was made to live in fear, pain, constant stress, and constant humiliation. He made me feel as if I would be totally alone, and no one would believe me if I left him. I lived with this for about 5.5 years, until last December. It was December 15th, and he had started home from his adult education class. It was around 9:30 p.m. He called me, yelling, saying someone had ticked him off at school, and we would talk about it when he got home. I had that feeling in the pit of my stomach that something bad was going to happen. He came home and started calling me names and blaming me for our horrible marriage and for where he was in his life, unemployed, broke, and now with a jail record. He even said at this point he was so mad that he was going to hit me. I told him to go out, go shoot some pool, because I knew this would buy me some time to get everything set. You see, while he thought he had control of my every move, he didn't know that I learned from the staff at the cocoon shelter how to make a safety plan and how to hide money and save it up. He didn't know that I had the numbers to the shelter and to the Bowling Green City Police Department on speed dial. He didn't know that I had a suitcase already packed with my kids' clothes, our birth certificates, and other important documents in it. I called my mom and another friend who knew my situation and told them what I was going to try to do that night. I sat there for about 2 hours, waiting for him to come home. He came in, saw the phone in my hand, and started screaming and asking what I thought I was going to do. At that point, I called the police, and about 6 officers were there in a matter of minutes. They got him to leave the house for the night, but could not guarantee he wouldn't be back the next morning. The police officer suggested I get a restraining order as soon as possible. I took off work the next day, got the kids off to school, and while he had already cleaned out our bank account, I was able to put the money I saved up into my new account. I then proceeded to get a restraining order and did exactly what the cocoon shelter staff suggested that I do. This time I followed through. That night, he happened to come to my house while my friend was driving me home. I was shaking so bad that I couldn't even dial the phone. She called the police for me, and once again, they came within minutes. We waited in the car, and the police asked if he had been served the restraining order yet. When I said no, right on the spot, they called the sheriff's department and made sure he was served. My friends and family came and changed all the locks for me. They helped me hide my car until I could sell it to pay for the divorce. They watched my kids while I got things squared away. I was awarded the order of protection for 1 year and was assisted through the divorce process with my attorney, who made sure I only had to talk to or face my husband one time for the divorce hearing. My pastor at our church made sure the ushers knew about the order of protection and assured me that he would be asked to leave if he showed up at church. My place of work had a threat assessment team who met with me and assured that I would be protected at work. The Bowling Green Police Department continued to do drive-bys for more than 4 months and showed up without hesitation if I heard strange noises and when he got the rest of his belongings from the house. I finally felt surrounded by protection. The good news is, throughout this past year, I got my divorce granted in March, graduated with honors from Owens, and started to give back by volunteering at the cocoon shelter and by always sharing my story in hopes of inspiring other victims and showing that places like the cocoon shelter are vital in assisting victims with a safe place to heal and hopefully regain the strength they need to leave their situation. I am here today because of you as supporters of places like the cocoon shelter, because of the community members helping me in my time of need, because of the many police officers who did not hesitate every single time I